Well, hello. Today I've got a confession to make to you, Rachel, that I used to think that being fully booked out meant that I was doing everything right in my business. If my schedule was full and my clients were happy, I thought I would have it all figured out. But the reality is, when that actually happens, I was one tech issue or mean client away from completely crying and throwing my laptop out the window.
I've been there as well. I think at some point I had about 15 plus clients and I was so exhausted. And I kind of just threw that in with this is just how the business is supposed to be. And, I've built my business like this and now I just kind of have to deal with it. But that's not reality. And we're definitely going to talk about some shifts today. But if you're new around here, welcome to the Deeply Rooted Business Podcast. I'm Rachel, your marketing ecosystem architect, gardener person. And I'm here with Jess, our systems guru, all things self care, sustainable systems, and all of that. She's genius. So, we're going to be diving into a few of these things and we're going to talk about some of the mindset shifts that we've utilized in our business that have really changed everything and how we've kind of stopped running ourselves into the ground and gave us a little bit more freedom in our
Yeah,
lives.
yeah. Because the truth really is, if you're still operating like the main talent in your business and not the owner, your business is always going to depend on you. You're always going to find yourself in burned out mode. So, we're hoping today's conversation can really help you change that. So, let's go into one of the first mindset shifts that we had to recognize and make.
Yeah. So mindset shift number one is that being booked does not mean being built correctly. You can be fully booked out and still be broke and still be stuck and still be completely burnt out and closer to mental breakdown than ever. I've been there.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I think those first couple of years of business, all, service providers or coaches, especially, kind of go through it where
Mhm.
you kind of don't know what you don't know. So you're doing a lot of trial and error. So you offer one service and realize, oh, can't do that. Like that completely drains me. Or I can only take on like four of this type of client because it takes so much energy away from me. When I first started working in my business, I think I was trying to take like five OBM clients a month at a $2,000 a month retainer. And I quickly realized that one, like being that level of responsibility over five different businesses is not sustainable at all, especially when I was working by myself. And that $2,000 a month isn't a fair enough transaction for me to be that invested in your business because like an OBM level or, director level responsibility that I was trying to play for my clients, my mind, even when I was off, I'm thinking about their businesses. How can I improve? I'm the one that has to handle like putting out all the fires. So what I was giving wasn't matching what I was receiving. And it was just having me show up and kind of like fail in what I was trying to do because I hadn't set myself up, hadn't built my business in a way to be able to support me to give that level of service to my clients.
Totally. And I completely agree. Like I said, when I had 15 plus clients, like this was not 15 plus clients plus a whole team supporting me. This was me trying to be everything for everybody. And like it was the most profitable the business has ever been because of my low margin and all of that. But it was definitely, I would never want to repeat that year of all of those contracts ever again because of how just exhausted. So it's really not about having more clients. It's about having like the clients in the right buckets that are really going to help you maintain your capacity, honor your boundaries, and show up in a way in your business that still gives you that room to breathe and have, space to live. This is something that I'm like shouting from the rooftops right now is that not everybody's meant to be these kind of like hustler, like founder 70 hours a week type business owners. Like a lot of us are really, really ready to just exist in your business and have it feel peaceful and profitable. And that doesn't mean you need a quantity amount of like clients or this or that kind of thing. So it is really, really
Yeah.
important.
Well, and I know we hear like the 10K thing all the time. And it's like,
Yeah.
I've hit 10K the wrong way where I was like burnt out, exhausted, like could not even function, could not even enjoy it. And currently my business has been making actually looked and my business has been making like 13, 14K for this whole year a month, which I don't even like feel it. Like I was like surprised when I looked at it because I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. But it's because like I've taken the step back to like, oh, if I'm going to be in your business this much, this is how much, that investment's going to be and kind of gotten really, really clear on that. So I'm making more money serving less clients, but able to serve them like really well because I'm supported and set up the right way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's actually something really fascinating. I was journaling about this the other day because I just kind of it popped into my head and I was like, I just need to get it out of here. And it was, do you remember what was it like last year or so when there was like that mass exodus of people shutting down their businesses and they were all big businesses that kind of boomed in that 2020 online time where everybody just kind of came into the online space. And the reason why a lot of those people shut their doors was essentially like a few reasons, like burnout, they just couldn't keep it going and that they like needed to kind of like tap back into a little bit more sanity. And those are also people that were preaching like make all this money and live the freedom and quit your 9 to 5 and do all of this and do all of that. But in reality is when you become a business owner and when you own your business, you are taking on the responsibility to, I'll say this, own 50 hats. You don't have to wear all of the hats, but you do have to own the hats. And then you have to figure out how to put them in the right places so that the hats don't get dropped on the floor kind of thing. So it was kind of really interesting. And it's just looking back at the foundations that people have, and we'll probably get into a little bit more of this in like the other shifts, but like the foundations that just completely crumbled if you don't acknowledge them or even work on them properly.
Yeah. All right. So this next mindset shift is something that I still struggle with to this day because I have the biggest guilt about working on my business. So the mindset shift number two is protecting time isn't selfish, it's strategic. And like yesterday, I was doing some content planning for myself and it was like a Wednesday. And I don't know, like, I still feel so much guilt, like I'm not doing enough for my clients if I take the time to work on my actual business. This is one of the reasons why I'm so crazy about tracking my time because sometimes I literally have to go into my time tracker and like prove to myself, you fulfilled this obligation. Like, you're done already. You need to stop putting all your energy into them and start putting a little more energy to you or in the next couple of months, you're going to be stressed out because you weren't doing the things that you needed to do to keep your business moving forward.
Totally. I think that that is something that I'm struggling with the most right now because of the shift into nap times. And we have our son home with us all day long. And it's one of those things where if I am not honoring the 1 hour that I've given to myself for my business, that like I can essentially 2 weeks can go by and I'd be like, I've completely ignored some really useful time to get things going. So it's just one of those, like, it has to be considered a non-negotiable. You have to be able to sit in your CEO hat because I think I've used this analogy before with the CEO hat and the employee hat. If you are just acting as an employee and getting your client work done and doing all of those things, but you're not living and thriving in that CEO, eventually CEO is gonna have to fire a little employee you. So, like, you kinda have to, like, live in the both worlds because
Yeah.
it's not sustainable to keep ignoring your business.
Yeah. And I think I talk to a lot of my clients and they have like this issue. I do too. It's like we cancel on ourselves. Like when we block that CEO timeout, we would never cancel on a client. I think that part of the reason is like when you are working on your own business, you kind of shift into a more uncomfortable zone because you might be putting out something that you're scared to see how people would react to it or you're unsure. Like there's a little more like emotional ties to that and people will always default to what like is comfortable for them. So I think it's just making sure that you do not cancel on yourself and like keep the promises that you make to yourself because nobody else is.
I would love to know because I do think this is really vulnerable. And I think in sharing vulnerabilities, you kind of take away its power. But like for me personally, I always avoid my email
Really?
as an email marketer. And so I think for other people, I've heard the same exact thing, right? Like social media managers hate doing social for their own platform. OBMs that hate doing systems for their own businesses and stuff. So I would love for anybody that's listening to share with us what's the one thing that you wish that you would like actually show up for in your business, but always seem to put off and be vulnerable like me. Cause, I do think it is very powerful to just kind of like release the power of maybe that's why I don't show up there. Cause I'm like, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations. But yeah, Jess, what's yours?
I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, what is one thing? I know one thing I constantly push back is my money. Like looking at my money, like I just said, I was like, oh, I was looking at my bank account and I just realized I'm making all this money and I didn't even realize it. But like doing like that accounting day to day. And I think it's because money like holds so much energy. And it's like, yeah, if I could just ignore my bank account, like everything will be going great. But I think too, that's like the beauty of when you start to outsource, like knowing, okay, this is kind of a friction point for me. How can I outsource? Recently, like I think I've been talking about like wanting to get back to YouTube all year and it's June. So it's like, and I haven't. Well, I did actually post my first video this month and I was thinking about like all the reasons like why and like what friction points can I remove. And it was like, okay, you were blocking off time, but like for some reason you still weren't doing it. So like what else? So it was like little things like having my office just like always ready to film. So I like telling Rachel I hired that a baby interior designer to like help me like at least get the background set up to where I'm not looking like I'm in a prison. And then I also hired an editor, which is like a big investment because YouTube editing is like quite expensive. Take a lot more time to do it than like a podcast or social media. But I'm like, I'm just going to start off with like two a month. And if I see a reason to like invest in it more, then, I'll do it. But just trying to figure out like what are the blocks that are keeping you from doing that and how can you remove those friction points?
Totally. All right. Let's move into mindset number 3, which I think is my biggest downfall. So, Jess, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah. So, shift number 3 is like without systems, you have just built a job for yourself. So,
Mhm.
systems are really the foundation of your business and how things get done. And when you systemize them, even if you're not at the point where you can outsource now, you're never going to be able to set yourself up for outsourcing if you don't start to kind of systemize your business because in reality, like if you cannot take time off of your business without it ceasing to exist or like crumbling, then you haven't really built a business for yourself. You've just built a job. And I think some people are okay with that. But if you are someone who's trying to build an actual business and asset that maybe can be sold off later, then you're going to want to get some systems in place.
Yeah, I think this was my biggest lesson slash like realization when we were prepping for my maternity leave because Jess supported me in it. And she is like, no, I need this. I need this. I need this. I was like, it all is in my brain. Like, can you just get it out of there? And, when you are really the only person that knows how things work and it isn't like there's no easy way to just be like, yeah, take this on and help me. It's not freedom at all. Like you have locked yourself into essentially false security because like it's my business. I have my own job security. Like, why am I hoarding all of this? I can hire and create this like breathing room in my business. But yeah, I think that was my biggest thing was, and it was really revolutionary for my business for Jess to come in and just be like, let's systemize this. Like, this is not something you need to be starting from scratch every single week. And that was life changing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad it helped. Glad it helped. It definitely helped me too to be able to have like, okay, this is what I need to do on what days. Anyway, the next one kind of goes along with creating systems, and that's creating this external business brain. So having a project management tool of choice, whether that be Notion, my personal favorite, or something like Asana or ClickUp to organize your business and get everything out of your head and into your brain. Because if it's all living in your head, nobody can assist you ever, nobody can help you. and you're creating a sort of like mental maze for yourself. As business owners, we make so many decisions a day that that's part of one of the things that not only an external business brain, but also systems do for you is they help you like release that decision fatigue and help calm some of that overwhelm.
Yeah, it's really funny because actually, like, have you heard of the Skylight calendar? So it's like essentially like a fancy iPad that you can like load in. And I'm speaking more from a personal level because I've been obsessing over this in-home systems manager essentially of like the meals and like the chores and all of the things and all of that. But it's like $400 for the actual like device. And then you have to pay like a monthly subscription fee. And so I kind of reverse engineered this into externalizing all of the mental load of if you've ever read, this is for anybody that lives with anybody, the book Fair Play. It really is talking about this, but in the sense of like your home, where you say, okay, this is a task. And you say, this is the ideal completion of the task. And who owns the task? Is it a half ownership? Just you would love it if you haven't read it. It is so genius. Anyways, I made this like bored of it with magnets because I'm digitalizing my house so that I'm not paying subscriptions on every single thing that all I have to do is just pay a little check box next to it anyways. But it is the exact same thing that in your business, if you can take that off of your brain of being like, okay, I'm going to stay in house mode. Laundry is going to be done on Wednesdays, and Wednesdays they need to be folded. It needs to be like washed, needs to be folded and put away the exact same day. And that's the complete ownership of the task. Your business has the same reoccurring tasks, same repetitive things that you are doing for it all of the time. And if you're allowing it to live in your brain and being like, oh, I'll remember on Wednesday to do that, that is so much wasted space that's happening in there. Like you could be using that extra brain energy to think of a new content topic and not be thinking about when you need to do this task in your business that you have to do every single week kind of thing. So off my soapbox, but it is something that I have had to completely revitalize my brain and like shift how like I think of it because it's not intuitive for me to reduce my mental load, but boy, is it just life
Yeah.
changing when you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of like when I was a single mom, all this organization and like how to reduce my mental load and not have to remember everything. It's like because I had to like figure out how to do that to like survive. So, like all
Yeah.
these little tips and tricks are like based on survival, not based on like I'm just a really type A person because I'm not. I would be the type C person who's like type B but needs to be type A because if not, she's just gonna crumble into like a little puddle. Anyway, so our last one, your business, you need to think of it like you are the owner of an asset and your business should be something that works for you and not the other way around. So you're not just offering services, you're not just working hours, you're building a asset that can run and grow and evolve over time. So I really want you to think about like if someone asked to buy your business today, what would they be buying other than like the hours that you promised to work for your client?
Yeah. Somebody needs to journal on that, and that somebody is me. Okay, so let's recap some of these shifts that we've shared with you today. So, being booked is not mean that your business is built properly, making sure that you are honoring your capacity, your boundary, and all of those things as your business is growing so that you are not getting closer and closer to burnout. Next one is honor the CEO time, block off that time, work on your business. It is really, really important. And the next one is without your systems in your business, you are essentially just like working this really, really complex job that you don't need to have. Like, you don't need that. Systems are not a luxury, they are a foundation for your business. So make sure that you are prioritizing them. And then the last one is that mental load really does kill your momentum. So externalize your business brain a little bit so that you can really get all of those pieces that are constantly just like, let me remember this, and get that out of your brain because it really does create so much more space for you to be in your zone of genius. And then the last one is that you're building your business as an asset. You're not just here to deliver a service. If you do want to kind of diversify yourself away from freelancing, you have to think like an asset. You have to think of your business as that, or else you're just kind of checking in and checking out on somebody else's clock. So
Yeah. So we would love to hear which one of these like shifts hit you the hardest today. Like, what do you think that you really need to change? What were your aha moments? If you found this episode helpful or have a biz bestie that is deep in the weeds lately, send this to her. Let's all get out together and continue to grow our business in a sustainable way. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Next week, tune in. I'm going to be interviewing Rachel on all the big shifts her business are making after motherhood. So you're definitely going to want to hear that. And until next week, we're rooting for you.